The metal platform was cold beneath Maya's bare feet. She stood straight, her shoulders back and her chin up, even though the heavy iron collar around her neck made her head ache. The alien crowd below looked up at her like she was nothing more than meat for sale. Maya Rodriguez had been a soldier once. A good soldier. She had fought for the human colonies on the edge of space, protecting families who just wanted to live in peace. That felt like a lifetime ago now. The scars on her arms told the story of her capture. Burns from energy weapons, cuts from interrogation tools, marks that would never fully heal. The auction house was huge. Hundreds of alien creatures filled the benches, all of them looking for humans to buy. Some were tall and thin with gray skin. Others were short and fat with too many arms. But the ones that scared Maya the most were the Vorthak. They looked like giant lizards walking on two legs with yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. A slimy creature that looked like a giant slug moved across the stage. This was Blix, the auctioneer. When he spoke, his voice came out wet and thick through the speakers. "Next item for sale," Blix announced, pointing one of his tentacles at Maya. "Human female, age 28. Former military, very strong, very stubborn. Perfect for heavy work or combat training." The crowd made excited noises. Maya could hear them talking in their strange languages. But the collar around her neck translated some of the words. They were discussing her muscles, her scars, her ability to fight. Like she was a machine they wanted to buy. "Look at those marks on her arms," one alien said. "She has been in real battles." "Military training makes them worth more," another replied. "They know how to follow orders when properly broken." Maya kept her face blank, but inside she was burning with anger. She had spent 6 months in Vorthak prisons. 6 months of pain and questioning and attempts to break her spirit. They had put the collar on her neck and burned a control mark into her shoulder. But they had never broken her. Not completely. The bidding started low. A gray-skinned alien offered 50 credits. Then a creature with 4 arms raised it to 75. The numbers kept going up as more aliens joined in. Maya watched them fight over her like she was a prize animal. Then she noticed him. In the back of the crowd sat a human man. He wore expensive clothes that marked him as someone important in the Vorthak system. His dark hair was clean and his face was smooth, not marked by the hard life most human slaves lived. But there was something in his eyes that the aliens could not see. Something that Maya recognized because she had seen it in her own mirror. The man raised his hand. 200 credits, he said in a calm voice. The crowd turned to look at him. Maya could see surprise on many alien faces. 200 was a high price for any slave, even a military one. A fat Vorthak with gold jewelry around his thick neck stood up. 250, he growled. The human did not hesitate. 300, 325, the Vorthak shot back. 400, now the crowd was getting excited. This was turning into a real fight. The Vorthak looked angry that a human was challenging him. His yellow eyes focused on the man in expensive clothes. 450, the Vorthak said, his voice getting louder. The human smiled, but it was not a happy smile. 1,000 credits. The auction house went quiet. Even Blix stopped moving for a moment. 1,000 credits was more than most aliens made in a year. It was crazy money for one human slave. The Vorthak stared at the human for a long moment. Maya could see him thinking, trying to decide if she was worth that much. Finally, he sat down with a grunt. "Anyone else?" Blix asked, looking around the crowd. No one moved. No one spoke, sold to the human in the back. 1,000 credits for the female warrior. Guards came to take Maya off the platform. As they led her toward the back of the auction house, she got a closer look at the man who had bought her. He was probably in his 30s, with the kind of face that could look friendly or dangerous depending on his mood. Right now he looked neither, just calm and watchful. But Maya noticed things the aliens missed. The way he held his shoulders, like someone who had learned to fight. The small scars on his hands that looked like old shackle marks. And when he thought no one was watching, the way his jaw tightened with what looked like barely controlled rage. The guards handed Maya over to 2 humans who worked for her new owner. They did not speak to her as they led her to a transport ship. Maya studied them too. They walked like broken people, their eyes down, their movements careful. But she caught one of them looking at her with something that might have been hope. The ship was clean and comfortable, much nicer than the prison transport that had brought her to the auction. Maya sat in a real chair instead of a cage. No one chained her feet or put extra restraints on her arms. It felt strange after months of being treated like a dangerous animal. The human who had bought her sat across from her. He did not speak for a long time, just watched her with dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Finally, as the ship lifted off from the auction world, he broke the silence. "My name is Jake Thompson," he said. "I know you have no reason to trust me. You probably think I am just another human who sold out to the Vorthak for an easier life." Maya said nothing. She had seen plenty of humans who chose comfort over courage. Jake nodded like he expected her silence. "You are Maya Rodriguez, former colonial Marine, fought at the Battle of New Tucson, captured during the evacuation of Settlement 7. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. How did he know so much about her? "The Vorthak files say you never broke during interrogation," Jake continued. "Never gave them any information about human defenses or troop movements. They tried everything, but you held out." Still Maya said nothing, but Jake seemed to understand anyway. "I bought you for a reason, Maya Rodriguez, but that reason is not what you think. When we reach my compound, I am going to show you something that will change everything you believe about humans in Vorthak space." The ship continued through the dark of space, carrying Maya toward whatever waited for her next. She did not know if Jake Thompson was telling the truth or playing some new kind of game, but for the first time in months she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The compound looked like a fortress from the outside. High walls surrounded buildings made of dark metal and stone. Guard towers rose at each corner, and Maya could see weapons pointed outward. It was the kind of place where important people kept valuable things safe. Jake's transport ship landed in a private docking bay inside the walls. As Maya stepped out, she expected to see more guards, maybe some of the torture devices she had learned to fear. Instead, she saw something that confused her. Human workers moved freely around the compound. They wore simple clothes instead of slave uniforms. No one had collars around their necks or control marks burned into their skin. They looked up when the ship landed, and Maya saw curiosity in their eyes instead of the fear she expected. "This way," Jake said, leading her toward the main building. Maya followed, her mind racing. Nothing here looked like what she knew about human slaves. The people she saw looked healthy and strong. Some of them even smiled when they saw Jake, like they actually liked him. Inside the building, the confusion grew worse. The halls were clean and bright. Doors stood open instead of being locked tight. Maya could hear voices talking normally, not the whispers of people afraid to speak. Jake led her to a room with comfortable chairs and a table full of real food. Not the thin soup and stale bread that prisoners usually got, but meat and vegetables and bread that smelled fresh from the oven. "Sit," Jake said, pointing to a chair. "Eat. I know it has been a while since you had a real meal." Maya stayed standing. "What is this place?" "It is exactly what it looks like," Jake replied. "A place where humans live without fear. No such place exists in Vorthak space." Jake smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You are right to be careful. I was the same way when I first came here." "When you first came here? You own this place, I do now. But 5 years ago I was standing where you are standing. Confused, angry, and sure that nothing good could happen to me ever again." Maya felt the collar around her neck grow warm. It was trying to read her emotions, getting ready to send pain if she became too upset. But something in Jake's voice made her want to listen. "I was captured during the attack on Proxima Station," Jake continued. "Maybe you heard about it. The Vorthak hit us with everything they had, killed most of the defenders in the first hour." Maya had heard about Proxima Station. It was one of the worst defeats in the war against the aliens. Thousands of humans had died and hundreds more had been taken as slaves. "I was a captain then," Jake said. "Had a ship, a crew, a life that meant something. The Vorthak took all of that away in one day." He walked to a window that looked out over the compound. Maya could see more humans working in gardens and workshops. They moved like free people, not slaves. "They brought me to a place like this," Jake went on. "A compound owned by a human named Robert Chen. He had been a slave once too, but he had worked his way up in their system. Became valuable to them. Got his own operation." Maya felt anger building in her chest. "So he sold out. Decided it was easier to work for them than fight them. That is what I thought too. I was so angry I could barely see straight. Here was this human living in comfort while the rest of us suffered. I wanted to kill him." The collar around Maya's neck began to heat up more. The control systems were reading her rising anger. "But Robert showed me something that changed everything," Jake said, turning away from the window. "He showed me what this place really was." Jake walked to a section of wall that looked like all the others. He pressed his hand against it and a hidden panel slid open. Behind it was a stairway leading down. "Come with me," he said. Maya hesitated. This could be a trap. Maybe Jake was playing some kind of game, trying to get her to trust him before he broke her spirit completely. But something in his eyes reminded her of the soldiers she had served with. People who had seen terrible things but kept fighting anyway. She followed him down the stairs. The hidden level was bigger than the building above. Rooms full of medical equipment stretched out in every direction. Maya could see humans working at computers and tables covered with strange devices. In one room, a woman in a white coat was carefully removing a control collar from a young man's neck. "Dr. Lisa Martinez," Jake said, nodding toward the woman. She was a military doctor before the Vorthak took her. She has been studying their control devices for 3 years. Maya watched as the collar came free. The young man rubbed his neck and smiled for the first time since Maya had seen him. The burn mark on his shoulder was already being treated with some kind of healing gel. "We can remove them," Jake continued. "Both the collars and the control marks. It takes time and the right equipment, but we can do it." Maya's throat felt tight. "How many?" 43 people in the last 6 months. All of them now living free. They walked past more rooms. Maya saw workshops where humans were building things she did not recognize. Communication equipment maybe, or weapons. In another room, people were studying maps of star systems and trade routes. "Robert Chen started all this," Jake explained. "He bought slaves and set them free. Gave them new identities, new lives, but he dreamed of something bigger." "What happened to him?" Jake's face grew dark. "The Vorthak found out. They killed him, but not before he passed everything to me. His contacts, his resources, his dream." They reached a room at the end of the hall. Inside, Maya saw something that made her heart skip. Weapons. Real military-grade weapons, not the simple tools that slaves sometimes used to fight back. Rifles, explosives, armor, and communication gear that could coordinate attacks across multiple worlds. "We are not just freeing individuals anymore," Jake said. "We are building something that can fight back. A network that spans dozens of worlds. Humans helping humans, working toward the day when none of us will wear collars again." Maya stared at the weapons, feeling hope and fear fighting in her chest. "The Vorthak will never allow this. The Vorthak do not know about this. As far as they can tell, I am their most loyal human servant. I buy slaves, I run profitable businesses, I never cause trouble. They trust me completely. And if they find out..." Jake's smile was not sad this time. It was dangerous. "Then we make them pay for every human life they have taken. Every collar they have put on our necks. Every mark they have burned into our skin." Maya looked around the room one more time. At the weapons, the equipment, the faces of humans who had chosen to fight instead of give up. She thought about the months of torture, the pain of the collar, the burn of the control mark. She thought about all the humans still suffering in Vorthak prisons. "What do you need me to do?" Jake handed her a rifle. It felt good in her hands. Solid and real and full of possibilities. "Help us save them all." 3 weeks had passed since Maya joined Jake's hidden operation. Her collar was gone now, cut away by Dr. Martinez's careful hands. The control mark on her shoulder had healed to a thin white scar that barely hurt anymore. For the first time in months, Maya felt like herself again. She stood in the training room watching a group of newly freed humans learn how to fight. Most of them had been slaves for years. Their bodies were weak and their spirits were broken. But Maya saw something in their eyes that gave her hope. They wanted to fight back. "Keep your stance low," Maya called out to a young woman who was struggling with a practice rifle. "The weapon should feel like part of your body." The woman nodded and tried again. Her name was Beth Wilson, and she had been a teacher before the Vorthak took her. Now she was learning to be a soldier. Marcus Williams walked into the room carrying a data pad. He had been a pilot before his capture, and now he helped plan rescue missions. His face was serious as he approached Maya. "Jake wants to see you in the command center," Marcus said. "We just got some important news." Maya followed him through the hidden passages of the compound. The command center was the heart of their operation. Computer screens covered the walls, showing star maps and communication channels. David Park sat at one of the computers, his fingers moving quickly across the controls. He had been an engineer before becoming a slave, and now he kept all their equipment running. Jake stood in the center of the room, talking quietly with a woman Maya had never seen before. She was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and tired eyes, but she wore the uniform of an Earth Fleet officer. Maya, Jake said when he saw her. "I want you to meet Captain Amanda Foster. She commands a ship in the outer systems." Maya felt confused. Earth fleet officers were not supposed to be in Vorthak space. The two sides had signed a peace treaty months ago. "Captain Foster brought us some news," Jake continued. "News that changes everything." Captain Foster stepped forward. "The Vorthak are planning something called the final processing. Intelligence suggests they want to condition every human slave in their territory at the same time." "Condition how?" Maya asked. "Brainwashing on a massive scale," the captain replied. "They have developed new technology that can break human will permanently. Once it is used, resistance will become impossible." Maya felt cold inside. She had seen what Vorthak conditioning could do to people, humans who forgot their own names, who obeyed every order without question, who smiled while their friends were tortured. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. The processing will happen at their main facility on Kepler 442b. Maya knew that world. It was where she had been auctioned, where thousands of humans were held before being sold across the galaxy. Rachel Murphy looked up from her communication station. She had been monitoring Vorthak broadcasts all morning. "I am picking up increased traffic to that system. Looks like they are moving slaves there from all over their territory." "How many?" Jake asked. "Best guess, maybe 50,000 humans." The room went quiet. 50,000 people, men, women, children, all of them about to lose their minds forever unless someone stopped it. "There is more," Captain Foster said. "Earth Command knows about the final processing, and?" Maya asked, though she already feared the answer. "They are not going to interfere. The peace treaty forbids Earth ships from entering Vorthak space. Command has decided that the enslaved humans are acceptable losses." Maya felt anger burning in her chest. Earth was abandoning them. The government she had fought for was leaving 50,000 humans to a fate worse than death. "That is why I am here," Captain Foster continued. "Some of us in the fleet disagree with that decision. We cannot send official help, but we can provide information and supplies." Jake nodded slowly. "What kind of information?" "Layout of the processing facility, guard schedules, technical details about their conditioning equipment, everything you would need to plan an attack." David Park turned away from his computer. "Jake, even with perfect intelligence, we could never assault that facility." "They have thousands of guards and orbital defense platforms." "David is right," Marcus added. "We could maybe rescue a few dozen people, but 50,000? That is impossible." Maya had been thinking while the others talked. An idea was forming in her mind. Dangerous and crazy, but maybe their only chance. "What if we did not try to fight our way in?" she said. Everyone looked at her. "What if we used their own system against them?" Maya continued. "Jake, you said the collars and control marks all work on the same frequency, right?" "Yes, as Dr. Martinez discovered that months ago." "So what if we could access their main control system? Change the signal instead of blocking it?" Dr. Martinez spoke up from where she had been listening quietly. "You mean reverse the polarity? Turn the conditioning signal into a liberation signal?" "Exactly. Instead of breaking their minds, we could free them all at once." Jake stared at her for a long moment. "That would require someone to physically access the quantum core at the heart of their facility?" "Yes. The radiation from that core would kill anyone who got too close, probably. And even if it worked, it would only affect the people on that one world. Slaves on other Vorthak planets would still be trapped." Maya shook her head. "Not if we broadcast the signal across their entire communication network." "Dr. Martinez, could we do that?" The doctor thought for a moment. "Theoretically, yes. Their quantum communication system reaches every world in their territory. If we could access it and send the right signal, every collar and control mark in Vorthak space would overload at the same time." David finished. "Millions of people would be freed instantly." The room was quiet again as everyone thought about what Maya was suggesting. It was the kind of plan that could either save millions of lives or get them all killed trying. Captain Foster broke the silence. "You would need someone on the inside. Someone the Vorthak trust completely." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "They trust me. I could get a small team into the facility." "This is insane," Marcus said. "The whole thing is suicide." "Maybe," Jake replied. "But 50,000 people are going to lose their minds in 2 weeks. Millions more will stay slaves forever. We have to try." Maya looked around the room at the faces of people who had already lost everything once. Now they were being asked to risk it all again. "Who votes to try the mission?" Jake asked. Every hand in the room went up. "Then we start planning tomorrow." The Vorthak processing facility was even worse than Maya had imagined. From the transport ship, she could see rows of buildings stretching to the horizon. Each building held hundreds of human prisoners. Guard towers rose like metal teeth, and energy barriers flickered blue in the morning light. Jake sat beside her wearing the fancy clothes of a Vorthak overseer. Maya and 3 other resistance members were dressed as his personal slaves. The disguise made her skin crawl, but it was the only way to get inside. "Remember," Jake said quietly, "once we are in there, I have to act like their loyal servant. Do not let it make you angry. Everything I say and do is just an act." Maya nodded. She understood, but it would still be hard to watch Jake bow to the aliens who had enslaved them both. The ship landed in a private docking bay. Vorthak guards waited for them, their yellow eyes scanning Jake's group with suspicion. The lead guard was huge, even for his species, with scars covering his lizard-like face. "Overseer Thompson," the guard said in broken human speech. "General Thaxton is waiting for you." "Of course," Jake replied, his voice smooth and respectful. "I am honored to serve the general." Maya forced herself to keep her eyes down as they walked through the facility. What she saw made her sick. Humans in cages so small they could not stand up. Aliens with shock sticks herding groups of prisoners like cattle. Worst of all were the ones who had already been through partial conditioning. They stared at nothing with empty eyes, drooling and mumbling to themselves. The main building was cleaner than the prison blocks, but somehow even more frightening. Here the Vorthak conducted their experiments. Maya could hear screaming from behind closed doors, the sound of minds being broken piece by piece. General Thaxton waited in a large office decorated with the skulls of different alien species. He was the biggest Vorthak Maya had ever seen, with golden scales and eyes like burning coals. When he spoke, his voice was like gravel in a blender. "Thompson, you are here for the final processing." "Yes, General. I brought my best assistants to help with the operation." Thaxton looked at Maya and the others with the same interest he might show for new tools. "Good, we begin tomorrow. 50,000 minds will be wiped clean in a single day. After that, human resistance will be impossible. A glorious achievement." "General." Maya wanted to put her rifle through the alien's skull, but she stood perfectly still and said nothing. "I am assigning you to oversee Section 7, Thaxton continued. 10,000 prisoners. Make sure they are properly prepared for conditioning." "It will be done, General." Thaxton dismissed them with a wave of his clawed hand. As they left his office, Maya caught Jake's eye for just a moment. She saw the same rage there that burned in her own chest. Their quarters were in the staff section of the facility. Jake had been given a small suite with rooms for his assistants. As soon as the door closed behind them, Maya felt like she could breathe again. "Phase 1 complete," Jake said quietly. "Now comes the hard part." Tom Anderson emerged from where he had been hiding in Maya's luggage. He was a former Special Forces sergeant who had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. Getting him inside undetected had been tricky, but they needed his expertise. "What did you see?" Jake asked him. "Security is tight but not impossible," Tom replied. "The quantum core is 3 levels down, behind multiple barriers. But I found a maintenance tunnel that might work." Maya studied the facility plans they had brought with them. Dr. Martinez had spent weeks analyzing the technical data Captain Foster provided. The quantum core was the brain of the entire Vorthak control network. If they could access it and upload their virus, every suppression device in alien space would overload. "How long do we have?" Maya asked. "The final processing starts at dawn," Jake replied. "We need to move tonight." Rachel Murphy checked her hidden communication equipment. She had been monitoring signals from other resistance cells across the galaxy. "Teams are standing by on 17 worlds. As soon as we send the signal, they will be ready to support the uprisings. And if we fail, then millions of humans stay slaves forever." Maya looked around at her team. Jake, who had spent years building this network. Tom, who had volunteered for almost certain death. Rachel, who had given up her freedom to coordinate the rebellion. All of them willing to die for the chance to free their people. "Let's review the plan one more time," Jake said. The plan was simple in concept, but deadly in execution. Jake would use his access codes to get them to the lower levels. Tom would guide them through the maintenance tunnels to the quantum core chamber. Maya would provide security while Rachel uploaded the liberation virus. Then they would have to escape before the facility's security systems detected what they had done. The radiation from the core will start killing us as soon as we enter the chamber. Dr. Martinez had warned them before they left. You will have maybe 10 minutes before your bodies shut down. 10 minutes to save millions of lives. Maya thought it was a fair trade. Night fell over the facility like a dark blanket. Maya could hear the sounds of prisoners crying and guards laughing. Tomorrow, if they failed, those sounds would stop forever. The humans would become empty shells incapable of sorrow or joy or hope. At midnight, they made their move. Jake's access codes got them past the first security checkpoint. The guards barely looked up as the group of humans walked by. To them, Jake was just another loyal servant checking on his assigned section. The second checkpoint was harder. 2 Vorthak guards with energy weapons scanned Jake's identification carefully. Maya held her breath, but the codes held. They were waved through. The third checkpoint was at the entrance to the restricted levels. Here the security was run by computers instead of guards. Jake placed his hand on a scanner and waited while it read his genetic signature. Red lights flashed for a moment, then turned green. They were in. The lower levels were colder and darker than the rest of the facility. Emergency lighting cast long shadows on the metal walls. Maya could hear the hum of massive machinery somewhere below them. Tom led them through a maze of corridors to a maintenance hatch hidden behind some pipes. The opening was barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. Maya went first, her rifle ready for trouble. The tunnel was hot and filled with steam from coolant pipes. Maya could feel sweat running down her back as she crawled forward. Behind her, she could hear the others breathing hard in the narrow space. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Tom whispered, "There. The core chamber is just ahead." Maya could see light bleeding through a grate at the end of the tunnel. Beyond it was a room filled with the blue glow of quantum energy. The core itself was a sphere of pure light floating in the center of the chamber. Just looking at it made Maya's eyes water. "Remember," Jake whispered, "we go in fast and we work fast. The radiation will start affecting us immediately." Maya kicked out the grate and dropped into the chamber. The heat hit her like a physical blow. She could feel her skin starting to burn already. The others followed quickly, their faces already showing the effects of the deadly energy. Rachel ran to the control console and began connecting her equipment. Her hands were shaking, but she worked with steady determination. 2 minutes, she said. "I need 2 minutes." Tom positioned himself at the door, watching for guards. Jake stood beside Maya, both of them ready to fight anyone who tried to stop them. Maya's vision was starting to blur. She could taste blood in her mouth. The radiation was cooking her from the inside out, but they were so close to freedom for millions of people. 1 minute, Rachel called out. Alarms began to sound somewhere in the facility. Red lights flashed in the hallway beyond the chamber. Tom raised his rifle as heavy footsteps echoed toward them. "Company coming," he said. Maya could see Vorthak guards running toward the chamber. Their energy weapons were already charging up. In seconds, this room would become a battleground. 30 seconds, Rachel said. The first guard appeared in the doorway. Tom shot him before he could raise his weapon. More guards crowded behind him, firing energy bolts into the chamber. Maya and Jake returned fire, their shots lighting up the blue glowing room. 10 seconds. A massive explosion shook the chamber. General Thaxton had arrived with a squad of elite guards. His roar of rage echoed off the walls as he saw what the humans were doing. "Now!" Rachel screamed. She hit the final control. The quantum core flared with brilliant light. Energy raced through the facility's communication system, spreading across space at the speed of thought. On thousands of worlds, millions of suppression collars began to overload. Maya smiled as she raised her rifle one last time. They had done it. Whatever happened next, they had given humanity its freedom. The battle for the chamber had only just begun. The quantum storm hit the galaxy like a wave of lightning. On every world where humans wore Vorthak collars, the metal devices suddenly grew hot and began to spark. Control marks burned bright for a moment, then faded to nothing. For the first time in years, enslaved humans could think clearly again. Maya felt the change even as she fought for her life in the core chamber. The constant pressure in her head that she had lived with for months was gone. Her thoughts were her own again, sharp and clear and filled with purpose. General Thaxton burst through the doorway with his elite guards. The huge Vorthak's eyes blazed with fury as he saw the humans at his most secret controls. "Kill them all," he roared. Energy bolts filled the chamber with deadly light. Maya dove behind a control console as the air around her exploded with heat. Tom Anderson was already down, blood spreading from a wound in his chest. But he kept firing, his shots keeping the Vorthak guards from advancing. "The upload is complete," Rachel shouted over the noise of battle. "The signal is spreading through their network." Jake appeared beside Maya, his expensive clothes torn and burned. "We need to get out of here." "Tom is hurt," Maya replied. "I can move," Tom called out, pressing a hand to his wounded chest. "We have to go now." But even as he spoke, more guards poured into the chamber. They were trapped, surrounded by aliens who wanted them dead. The radiation from the quantum core was getting stronger too. Maya could feel her strength fading as the deadly energy ate at her body. Then something unexpected happened. Explosions echoed through the facility above them. The sound of gunfire and shouting filled the air. Over the facility's communication system, Maya could hear confused Vorthak voices crying out in alarm. "The prisoners are rioting," one voice said. "Section 4 is in full revolt," said another. "All human slaves have broken free of their conditioning, General." Thaxton snarled in rage. "Impossible. The collars should prevent any rebellion." "General," a panicked voice came through his communicator. "The collars are not working. None of them are working. The humans remember everything." Maya smiled through her pain. Across the facility, 50,000 humans were remembering who they were, remembering what had been done to them. And they were angry. The sound of fighting grew closer. Through the chamber's doorway, Maya could see flashes of light from energy weapons. But now some of those flashes were coming from human weapons. Slaves who had overpowered their guards. Workers who had grabbed tools and turned them into weapons. "Fall back to the upper levels," Thaxton ordered his guards. "Secure the command center." But his guards were already nervous. Fighting armed rebels was different from controlling broken slaves. Some of them began to retreat, leaving gaps in their formation. Maya saw her chance. She sprinted across the chamber, firing as she ran. Her shots took down 2 guards before they could react. Jake and Rachel followed, helping Tom limp toward the exit. They fought their way through corridors filled with chaos. Human prisoners were everywhere, some still weak from their captivity, but all of them free to think and act. Maya saw a young man she recognized from the auction house. He had found a Vorthak energy rifle and was using it to excellent effect. "This way," Jake called out, leading them toward a service elevator. The elevator was crowded with freed humans, all of them armed with weapons they had taken from guards. Maya squeezed inside just as another explosion shook the building. "What is happening up there?" someone asked. "Revolution," Maya replied. The elevator opened onto the main level of the facility. What Maya saw there filled her with fierce joy. Thousands of humans were fighting their way out of the prison blocks. They moved like soldiers again, coordinating their attacks and covering each other's retreat. The Vorthak guards were overwhelmed, falling back toward their fortified positions. But the sight that made Maya's heart sing was outside the windows. Ships were arriving in the sky above the facility. Human ships, with the markings of the resistance cells from other worlds. Captain Foster had kept her word. Help was coming. Marcus Williams's voice came through Maya's hidden communicator. "Maya, this is Marcus. I am in the lead fighter. We are seeing uprisings on every Vorthak world. The quantum storm worked. Millions of humans are free." "How many worlds?" Maya asked. "All of them. Every single world in Vorthak space. Their entire slave system just collapsed." General Thaxton appeared at the far end of the corridor, surrounded by his remaining guards. His golden scales were blackened with smoke and his eyes burned with hatred. When he saw Maya, he pointed one clawed finger at her. "You," he snarled. "You did this." "We all did this," Maya replied, raising her rifle. The final battle was short but fierce. Thaxton and his guards fought with the desperation of beings who knew their empire was falling. But they were outnumbered by angry humans who had nothing left to lose. When it was over, Thaxton lay dead on the floor of his own facility. Around him, his guards had either fled or surrendered. The great Vorthak processing center was now controlled by the people it had been built to break. Maya stumbled outside into the morning light. Her body was failing from the radiation poisoning. But she had lived long enough to see this moment. Human ships filled the sky, landing to evacuate the freed prisoners. In the distance, she could see Vorthak military vessels retreating from the system. Dr. Martinez found her sitting against a wall, barely conscious. "Maya, we need to get you to a medical ship." "The radiation exposure? Will I live?" Maya asked. "I do not know." The damage is severe, Maya nodded. She had known the risks when she volunteered for the mission. Did we win? Dr. Martinez smiled, tears running down her face. Yes, reports are coming in from across the galaxy. Human uprisings everywhere. The Vorthak Empire is in complete chaos. Their entire economy depended on slave labor, and now that labor force is in open revolt. And Earth? Earth Command is scrambling to take credit for the liberation. They claim it was all part of a secret plan. Maya laughed, then coughed up blood. Of course they are. Jake appeared beside her, looking almost as bad as she felt. The radiation had affected him too, but he was still alive, still fighting. The Vorthak government is trying to negotiate, he said. They want to discuss terms for ending the rebellion. What terms? Maya asked. Complete freedom for all human slaves, reparations for damages, and the right to establish independent human colonies on former slave worlds. Maya closed her eyes, feeling a peace she had not known for years. And if they refuse? Then we keep fighting. Every human in the galaxy knows the truth now, knows what was done to us. They will never accept slavery again. A medical team arrived to take Maya to the hospital ship. As they loaded her onto a stretcher, she looked up at the sky filled with human vessels. Ships carrying freed slaves to new homes. Ships bringing medical supplies and weapons to support the ongoing rebellion. Maya, Jake said, walking beside the stretcher. What you did today, what we all did, she corrected him. It changed everything. Every human in the galaxy owes you their freedom. Maya smiled weakly. I was just a soldier doing her job. As the medical ship lifted off, Maya could see the processing facility growing smaller below them. The place where so many humans had lost their hope was now a symbol of liberation. The iron collars and slave marks were gone forever, destroyed by the courage of people who refused to give up. The quantum storm had ended, but the wave of freedom it unleashed would continue spreading across the stars. Humanity had found its voice again, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the quantum storm freed millions of humans across the galaxy. Maya stood on the observation deck of New Haven Station, watching ships arrive from dozens of star systems. Each vessel carried former slaves who were now free citizens of the growing human alliance. The radiation poisoning had nearly killed her, but Dr. Martinez's skill and some experimental treatments had pulled her back from death's edge. Maya's hair had grown back white instead of black, and she tired more easily than before, but she was alive. More importantly, she was free. Another convoy from the Rigel system, Jake said, joining her at the window. He looked healthier than he had in months, though, like Maya, the radiation had left its marks. 2,000 more freed humans looking for new homes. Maya nodded, watching the ship's dock with careful precision. Each arrival was a small miracle. These people had been slaves just months ago, broken and hopeless. Now they were rebuilding their lives as free citizens. Any word from the Vorthak government? Maya asked. They are still trying to negotiate. General Korath arrived yesterday with another peace offer. Maya had met General Korath, the new Vorthak leader who had taken power after their empire collapsed. He was different from Thaxon, more willing to talk and less interested in war. But Maya did not trust him. She did not trust any of them. What are they offering this time? Same as before. Recognition of human independence in exchange for an end to the rebellion. They want their remaining territories to be left alone. And our answer? Jake smiled. Same as before. Complete reparations for every human they enslaved. War crime trials for their leaders. And the right to establish human colonies anywhere we choose. Maya looked out at the stars, thinking about all the humans still fighting on distant worlds. The rebellion had not ended with the quantum storm. If anything, it had grown stronger. Humans who had been slaves for years were not content to simply be free. They wanted justice. The Earth delegation is here too, Jake continued. They want to discuss bringing the freed colonies back into the Earth Alliance. Maya's expression hardened. Earth's betrayal still burned in her memory. When humans had needed help the most, their home government had abandoned them. Now that the tide had turned, Earth wanted to claim credit for the victory. What did you tell them? I told them we would consider their proposal. After they formally apologize for abandoning us. After they pay reparations to every freed slave. And after they agree that the new human colonies will be completely independent. They will never agree to that. Then, they can go back to Earth and explain to their voters why millions of humans want nothing to do with them. A communication alert sounded in the station. Maya and Jake hurried to the command center, where Rachel Murphy was monitoring signals from across the galaxy. The former communications specialist had become the coordinator for all human resistance activities. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Message from the Kepler system," Rachel replied. "The Vorthak garrison there just surrendered. That makes 47 worlds completely liberated." Maya felt a surge of satisfaction. 47 worlds that had once been slave markets were now free human territory, places where children could grow up without collars around their necks. Any resistance? None. The local Vorthak commander says his troops refuse to fight humans anymore. Too many of them remember what happened when they tried to stop the uprisings. Maya understood. The quantum storm had not just freed human slaves. It had shown every alien species in the galaxy what humans were capable of when they fought as free people. The Vorthak military, which had once seemed invincible, had been shattered by rebellions they could not control. Marcus Williams entered the command center, still wearing his pilot uniform. He had been leading flight missions to support human colonies across the galaxy. His face was grim as he approached Jake. "We have a problem," Marcus said. "Long-range sensors are picking up Earth fleet movements. 3 battle groups heading toward the Vega system." Jake frowned. "That is where we established the new Terra colony. Earth is claiming that Vega is within their traditional sphere of influence. They want the colony to submit to Earth authority." Maya felt anger building in her chest. "They abandoned us when we needed them. Now they want to control us." "It gets worse," Marcus continued. "Intelligence reports suggest they are working with moderate Vorthak factions. Some kind of deal to divide up the former slave territories." The command center went quiet. Maya could see the same rage on every face that she felt in her own heart. Earth and the Vorthak, making deals about human lives like they were trading goods. "How long before the Earth fleets reach Vega?" Jake asked. 72 hours. Jake looked around the room at the faces of people who had fought so hard for their freedom. Maya could see him making the same calculation she was making. They had ships and weapons, but not enough to fight Earth's military. "Recommendations?" Jake asked. "We could evacuate the Vega colony," Rachel suggested. "Move everyone to systems Earth cannot reach." "That would mean abandoning our first free colony," Maya replied, "letting them take whatever they want." Tom Anderson, still recovering from his wounds but back on duty, spoke up from his position at the tactical display. "We could make a stand. Show Earth that we are not the same broken people they abandoned." Maya studied the star charts showing Earth fleet positions. 3 battle groups meant hundreds of ships and thousands of soldiers. But those soldiers had never fought freed humans before. They had no idea what they were walking into. "There is another option," Maya said slowly. "We could send a message to every human colony in the galaxy. Tell them what Earth is doing. Ask them to choose sides." Jake's eyes lit up with understanding. "A general mobilization. Every freed slave who can fly a ship or carry a weapon. Every colony that wants to stay independent. We make it clear that this is not just about Vega. This is about whether humans will be free or just change masters." Rachel was already working at her communication station. "I can have the message transmitted within the hour. Emergency channels to every human settlement." "Do it," Jake said. "Tell them we are going to Vega. Tell them we need every ship and every volunteer they can spare." "And if Earth decides to fight?" Marcus asked. Maya picked up her rifle from where it leaned against the wall. The weapon felt good in her hands, familiar and reassuring. "Then we remind them why the Vorthak Empire collapsed." The next 72 hours passed in a blur of activity. Ships arrived at New Haven Station from across the galaxy. Not just military vessels, but cargo haulers, passenger transports, even mining ships equipped with makeshift weapons. Maya had never seen anything like it. Former slaves, who had been farmers and teachers and mechanics, were volunteering to fight Earth fleet. Families, who had just found safety, were willing to risk it all again for the principle of freedom. Children who had been born in slavery were asking to serve on the ships that would defend their new home. When the improvised fleet finally departed for Vega, Maya stood on the bridge of the flagship watching hundreds of ships jump to hyperspace. They were not the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, but they were the most determined. "Think Earth will back down when they see us coming?" Jake asked. Maya looked at the tactical display showing their estimated arrival time. "I hope they are smart enough to try." But as the human liberation fleet raced toward Vega, Maya was already planning for the worst. Earth fleet had advanced weapons and trained soldiers. But the humans they would be facing had something more important. They had fought for their freedom once and won. They would not give it up without a fight. The stars streamed past the viewport as Maya's fleet carried the hopes of millions toward their destiny. Whatever happened at Vega would determine the future of human freedom in the galaxy. Maya had helped break the chains that bound her people. Now she would help them stay free. The final battle for human independence was about to begin.